Is the ZX 4000 4D line from Adidas the new Yeezy? That could be true. The Yeezys are sort of dropping off in hype and the ZX 4000 4Ds are certainly climbing. And today we're bringing you the ZX 4D Onyx, and it's an absolute banger of a sneaker, and I think it takes the whole 4D line to a next level. Keep watching as we look at whether the ZX 4000 4Ds are going to take the place of the Yeezys. Today we're having a look at the ZX 4000 4D Onyx, which is going to be dropping real soon. And I talked about that at the top of the video, that I'm questioning whether or not the 4Ds are going to take the place of Yeezy at the top of the Adidas line and be the most popular sneaker, and the actual hype that's coming from Adidas as the Yeezy sort of drops off and the 4Ds kind of kick it up a gear. But actually coincidentally, tomorrow I'm going to be reviewing the Yeezy 700 Inertia, so it's a perfect pair. You've got today the ZX 4000 4Ds, the Onyx, and tomorrow you've got the Inertia from the Yeezy 700 line, so you get to compare the two and see whether or not one's in decline and the other one's on the up. We'll check out today is just that ZX 4000 4D Onyx. It's a brilliant looking sneaker, and I definitely think, without worrying about whether it's a Yeezy competitor or not, I still think it's an absolute banger of a sneaker. Now, the reason I think Adidas have got this right is because the last batch of 4Ds that have come out, basically since the original Daniel Arsham ones, which were an absolute fire sneaker, real banger, grail for many people, myself included. But those 4Ds, the very first ones in the line, I don't know, maybe very first is a bit too much, it's a bit extravagant, but the 4Ds from But the 4Ds from Daniel Arsham really set the bar. But then after that, I felt like the 4D line really lost its way. And you ended up with what I saw as being midsoles, the midsoles on the sneakers not matching the uppers. And you had these weird kind of, I don't know, hybrid sneakers. That's a good word for it. Hybrid sneakers where it seemed like the upper had been designed by one department and the midsole and the outsole designed by another. They just sort of crammed them together as best they could. But these, especially the ZX 4000 4Ds in general, but these ZX 4000 4Ds Onyx, I think, really marry that upper and that outsole and the sole system together really well. And that's why I think that this particular 4D is going to be a real banger. I mean, the previous ones have sold out, but this guy right here, I think this one could last. It's a brilliant looking sneaker, and I really think there are many features on it. The main thing about it to me is that they've managed to sort of get the red accents and the green accents throughout to work well together from upper to outsole. And that is really the key. In previous iterations, they really didn't work together, and you had that lime green midsole, which is distinctive of the 4D sort of line. But it's, you know, on the upper, you'd end up having, say, you know, I don't know, like a multi sort of rainbowy color, and it didn't really go well together with the midsole. But here you can see there's flashes of red. They say it's infrared, but I'm not going to call it that because there's no way that's infrared to me. There's flashes of infrared, and I just called it infrared. What bonehead. There's flashes of red in the upper and green in the upper, and flashes of red and actual green in the midsole and the outsole. And that's where the sneaker works well together, is that combination between the upper half and the lower half of the sneaker. So let's have a look at this guy from top to toe. We'll start at that top line, and the highest point of the sneaker is actually the top of the tongue there, and it is a very large red tongue, but it's not a bright flashy red. It's sort of an off red, if I can steal the Off-White Lines tag, an off red tongue there. And what they've done is on the tab on the tongue where there's the information, the Adidas logo on the tab there, what they've done is they've made the tab a sort of subtle green on top of this subtle red tongue, and the two go together really well. The red and the green really set each other off, especially when you consider it in relation to that midsole, that 4D midsole down below. It's a really nice feature of the upper and a really great place to start. Moving down a bit, you get to that upper itself, which is made of prime knit primarily. The actual upper, the panels are made of prime knit, and it is in that onyx black colorway. Again, a really fine looking black, really deep black, and that really helps those colors to really pop when you've got a solid black like that. And it is, as I said, prime knit. But what's distinctive about the upper isn't actually the prime knit, which is unusual because prime knit in itself is a very big advance, a very unique upper, shall we say. But what is interesting is that the overlays are nubuck, which is fascinating because they're really soft, really beautiful kind of leather that lends itself really well to high-end sneakers. And in the case of these Adidas ZX 4000 4D Onyxes, the two particular things I want to talk about with those overlays that go on top of that prime knit upper is that one, is that they set off against the actual upper itself really nicely in one tone of darker grey and a lighter grey. It's probably a normal grey. I wouldn't call it dark grey. So you've got the normal grey versus the light grey. Now that normal grey looks best in the sort of the overlays that come out. I think it's fascinating, these overlays that come up around the ankle and go into the inside of the sneaker. It's a really interesting touch to me, and they're in that darker grey colour. But then you've got this lighter grey nubuck overlay that goes from the very front of the laces down the quarter, along the midfoot to the heel, and around to the back of the sneaker. It's one big thing, but because it's broken up by a couple of little like sections along the way, it doesn't look like one big panel. It looks like a few different panels. But again, they've got it right. They've got that light grey and that darker grey, because it's not dark grey, the black, the yellow and the green working really well together. And I think that's a really a big improvement on the previous ZX 4000 4Ds that have come out from Adidas so far. Now, following that overlay that goes on the inside, you have a look inside the sneaker, and there's a lot of detailing in there. And to be honest, I don't really get the story behind it. The story is something to do with the Kelvin measure of temperature. And if I remember my science correctly, absolute zero is minus 272 degrees Celsius. Correct me if I'm wrong, which is called 0 degrees Kelvin. And I think it's something to do with these sneakers being made in an almost completely automated factory, where there's almost no human element in the production of it. Of course, in the conception and design of it there was, but you've got this automated factory, and the idea is that it's made at, like, you know, the 0 degrees Kelvin, which is obviously ridiculous. They weren't made at that temperature, but the idea is that this sort of pure automated technological approach to building sneakers is reflected on the insole, and these hints towards the 0 degrees Kelvin, or the Kelvin measure of temperature. I really don't get it. I've explained it as best as I can, but I really don't get it. But I don't care, because it looks really good. It's a really good looking insole with those digits and that detailing in there and that font. And it could say, for all I know, it could say Barney Rubble in there, and I wouldn't care, because it just looks good. And that's all that really matters, is not particularly what it stands for, but how it looks. So I really dig that insole. I think it's a really flashy insole on this sneaker. Really cool completion of that upper section. But then after the upper section, we go down to that midsole, that 4D midsole, which for me has been utterly wasted on the last, I don't know, 10 4Ds that have come out. There's a particular one, I didn't review it because I didn't like it at all, but there was a particular one which was that mashup between the upper and the lower parts of the sneaker I didn't like, and it might be Kith. Ooh, it might be Kith, but I didn't review it and I have no interest in it, so that's why I don't know what it's called. But in the case of this, that lime green 4D midsole is complemented by the flashes of green and red up in the upper, and the flashes of green and red that are repeated down below, and we'll have a look at that in a second. And that's why it's not wasted. It's part of the sneaker. It's not just a midsole chucked in on there. You know, it's 4D, let's chuck that on there and get some sales. It actually is like the sneaker as a whole has been put together as one unit. I really like that about these ONIX 4Ds. They're really nice looking sneaker, and that midsole isn't wasted for once, and I'm really appreciative of that. And then the last thing is to that outsole, and as I said, there's flashes of red and green on there as well. I think I'm remembering rightly that there's two different greens, one to match the midsole and another more darker green in there. But anyway, it's primarily an all black outsole, but those flashes of color just help to get that continuation from top to bottom of one look of sneaker, one whole sneaker, and that's the real selling point for me on this guy. Really good looking sneaker. If there's no way I'm getting these in hand, but if by some miracle pop out of the sky I get this pair of sneakers in hand, I definitely will give you on foot and in hand review, because it's a great looking sneaker. They come in at a massive price tag. At the top of this video I did ask, is this 4D line going to replace the Yeezy as the new hype at the top of the Adidas line? They do sort of mimic each other in price. The Yeezys are expensive, the 4Ds are even more so they could be that top end sneaker. I don't know, but I do think they're a fire looking sneaker and a great looking sneaker, and I do think the Yeezy hype is sort of starting to drop off. So they could be the next big thing from Adidas if they keep rolling them out in different colorways and get them right like they have done with this one. For now, it's time for me to check up and say thanks for checking in. I did say at the top of the video that we are checking out a Yeezy tomorrow, that Inertia 700, which will be interesting to see the the contrast between that and today's sneaker that I brought you, and to compare those two. It would be very interesting, I think, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and check in for tomorrow's video when I do bring you that Adidas Yeezy 700 Inertia review. But for now, I have to check off and say farewell. Thanks for looking at my content and watching and checking in, and I'll be back tomorrow as I am every single day, bringing you content about sneakers. And without further ado, nothing more to say. It's time for me to check off from Tokyo. Thank you for checking in, and I will definitely see you tomorrow.